Hello all. Before I share with you my story, I want to take a quick poll. I want to ask you to raise your hands and keep them up nice and high if you have a brother or sister. Go ahead, raise them up, don't be shy. For those of you guys who don't have a sibling, maybe you have a best friend who's like a brother or sister to you. Raise your hand. And I want you to take a look around. And we all have relationships that are important to us. We all have individuals that depend on us. We all have people that we love and adore, and vice versa. I want you to think of that relationship as I share with you my story. Because fundamentally, we're all the same. We're all human. And at any point in time, you could be up here sharing this version of your story. And at any point in time, your loved one, the one for whom you raised your hand, could be up here sharing their version of this story. And I hope and pray that that never happens. So let me tell you about my relationship with my brother. I have 4 of them. Here's the picture. I think. No, go. Okay. My brother Jerry, he's the oldest. My parents waited about a year and a half to have their next child. So Jerry's the one over on the left. And Tom is over on the right. And I don't think they planned the Tom and Jerry thing very well. We were in Poland. I don't think they had that cartoon there. My brother Andrew, they had him about 10 years later, and he's the one at the bottom kind of being flipped over. And there I am in the back. My parents had me not even a year later, and I'm sitting alone in the corner playing with a Christmas tree. My parents decided to immigrate to the U.S. when I was about 6, and they went through Greece. So the next picture just shows you Andrew and I playing around in the Athens area for about 6 to 10 months. We were very close in age, so we did a lot of things together. Finally, they decided to immigrate to Detroit, and they settled into a small Polish community. This next picture is Andrew and I in the 1st grade. They decided to put us in class together because we didn't know the language. We were trying to adjust, and Andrew did not like school from the start. So we went to the 1st grade together. And as you can see, I'm not in uniform. I don't know what that's about either. And the Catholic school was very small. We went there from the 1st grade to the 8th grade, and I think our 8th grade had maybe 10 students in it. So Andrew and I were in the same grade. We had the same friends. We did the same activities. We went everywhere together. I remember I have a couple fond moments of us playing sports. And if you can't tell, I'm a really good football player. Andrew and I would get together, and in the streets, we would run around with all of our friends, and I was so eager to catch the ball, and they would throw it to me, and then I would stare at them, and I would be like, what do you want me to do? Do I run that way? Do I run that way? Do I pass? So I'm not really a good football player. But I think roller hockey was my sport, and Andrew and I loved playing roller hockey, and we played every chance that we could get. There was this one time where him and his best friend Jeff took forever, what it seemed like at the time, to suit me up to be the goalie, because I never wanted to be the goalie. And they put all these pads on me, these knee pads, leg pads, elbow pads. They gave me that big goalie helmet and the mitten, whatever you call it, goalie glove, got it. And the stick, right? I made a good goalie, can you tell? And they put me in the net, and they said, okay, I'm going to shoot the puck, and you block it any way you could. And I said, okay. And every time the puck came flying at me, I would jump out of the net, because it really wasn't my thing to try to block this puck that came flying at me. I have another picture up here. Andrew and I also had an amazing opportunity to do these Christmas plays every single year together. We would dress up in various characters and act out different Christmas themes. Here, Andrew's in the middle, and he's playing the king, and I'm over on the left, and I'm playing the angel, and those were very fitting for our personalities at that time. I have one more picture for you, and it kind of sums up our relationship. Where he went, I went, and where I went, he went. And this continued, this really strong bond we had formed. Like I said, we weren't even a year apart until the day we graduated 8th grade. my parents had to move because we were going to high school. And we went from a school that had, like I said, 10 people in our 8th grade, and there was only one 8th grade, to a school that had about 300 people, maybe 300 some. So it was an adjustment for us. And I decided to join the swim team, and Andrew didn't. And for the first time in our lives, we had different friends. We ran in different social networks, and we did different things. And we started to grow apart, and our relationship took a toll. The senior year of high school, my parents grew further apart. When we graduated, I decided to go to college, and Andrew networked his way into a really nice landscape architect job. He didn't go to college, but he was a landscape architect. But he was really smart. He was the brains of the family. He got straight A's, barely cracked a book. He was the type that would skim a book or an article and he could tell you what it said, almost verbatim. Super smart kid. So life got busy. I was working full-time and going to school, and he was working as a landscape architect, and we grew further apart. When I graduated college, Andrew and I started hanging out together again. He would call me for lunch. I would drive up to his work, hop into his brand new Infiniti, and we would go to the same lunch spot every time without fail. For those of you guys who have lived in Arizona, we went to the Scottsdale Mall, Kona Grill. And every time, I kid you not, he got Hawaiian pizza and I got sushi. And every time he picked up the tab, I never, ever paid for lunch. And he always gave me his leftovers, which was nice. And our relationship started growing stronger. He took me shopping for MAC makeup, Aveda hair care, Aldo shoes, all those things I needed, but I really couldn't afford because I had some school loans, and he was always willing to spoil me. Our relationship strengthened, and I was the one he came to for advice. I was the one he told all of his secrets to, and for once I kind of felt like an older sister to him. Our relationship continued that strong until I shipped out for basic in April 2009. You guys know 8.5 weeks, you have 10-minute phone calls, maybe once a week. You're probably not going to call your brother, you're going to call your boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad. So I didn't talk to him for those 8.5 weeks. And then I went off to tech school for another 12.5 weeks or something like that. And we called and we texted, but it wasn't the same. He had a lot of stuff he was dealing with and I wasn't home. So our relationship grew apart again. In September of 2009, I went home for RAP. So I got 10 days of leave and I saw him every chance that I could, and I had some other stuff that I was dealing with. I didn't know then that that was going to be the last time that I would see him. A year later, almost to the day, on April 12th, 2000, I got this text message from my little brother, Adam. I have some bad news. Now let me tell you a little bit about Adam. He gets into some shenanigans. He's 8 years younger than I am, so I signed his progress report when he failed the class. I talked to my parents when he broke his cell phone for the 3rd time that week that they paid for. So this wasn't anything alarming. I was at my new base at Herbert Field at the front desk of the mental health office, and I was getting ready to go home for the day. It was Monday, and on Wednesday I was testing for my end of course. So I really wanted to get out early and cram, right? So I think I texted him something like, what happened, what's going on? And 6 minutes later, this is what I got. Andrew passed away. My heart sank. Immediately, shock, fear came over me. But my brain did this funky kind of, I think, self-protective measure where it wasn't my Andrew that died. I was trying to find out who he was talking to, like, who's Andrew? It was all within split seconds that happened, and I was on the phone with my little brother who was too panicked. And he confirmed that it was our Andrew that died that day. I didn't believe him, so I got on the phone with my dad, and he said the same thing. You see, Andrew didn't show up for work that morning, and he worked at the same landscape architecture firm for the past 9 years, and he never just didn't call. So when he wasn't answering his best friend's phone calls while they worked together, she got concerned and she called my parents. When he wasn't answering the phone, they got concerned and they drove to his apartment. The apartment manager wouldn't let them in, obviously, so she called the police, the fire, I don't know whose name. They found my brother in the bathroom where he had hung himself earlier that morning. On April 12, 2010, I had to face the reality that he killed himself. And to tell you those words literally makes me sick to my stomach to this day. His suicide shatters my world. Shock, disbelief, confusion, panic, blame, guilt, sadness overwhelmed me, and I ran out of the mental health clinic. I didn't even tell people where I was going, I just took off. And Monday I spent the rest of the day just lost. I had no idea what was happening. Tuesday wasn't any different. I spent, I think, the majority of that time on the floor. Wednesday, somehow I managed to drive myself to the education office, overcome a panic attack, took my end of course, and I was out to see my family, maybe an hour later. I remember stepping into my parents' home, and they had the same look of sadness and grief, and just that lost look in their eyes. Their eyes all red and puffy because they had been bawling for the past 2 days. The funeral arrangements were all taken care of by the time I got home, so we just sat around lost together. We really couldn't process anything. The next day was the wake, and I had never been to a wake before, but I didn't think I was going to have a good time, so I didn't really have a whole lot of expectation about it. And I remember walking into the funeral home and seeing my brother lying in the coffin on the left side of the room. And immediately, the shock, the denial, the disbelief, all of those were gone. And I was faced with that reality. And I lost it. Somehow I had to stay strong. My mom stayed back. We didn't want her to stay at the funeral home too long because she was in despair. I mean, she lost it. But I had to stay strong for her and for my goddaughter, who was 5 at the time, and she couldn't understand what had just happened. But there were moments where I couldn't keep it together. And there were moments when I sat at his coffin and I just told him, "I'm sorry," over and over again. I have one more picture for you. My parents asked me to take pictures. They wanted something to send home to their family to Poland, I guess for closure. I didn't know. I didn't want to take pictures, but I did the best I could. And this is the last picture my parents will have with their son. And the last one I'll ever take of my brother. Sorry. The worst thing that day was when it came time to leave the funeral home. And I had to pull my mom off the coffin as she begged me to give her more time. He outlined in his suicide note that he wants to be cremated. So we knew that was the last time that we would see him. It will be 3 years this April since he died, and every single day I miss him. Every day I wish and I pray that things were different, but they're not. And I have to face reality that they never will be. I would do anything to go back in time and change things, but I can't. My brother killed himself because he was hurting, because he was in so much pain that he felt that was his only way out. And I'm standing here before you today telling you that it wasn't. And this is never the answer. I had nightmares for the better part of a year. I couldn't sleep. My brain kept going over and over and over the what ifs, the I should have, the I could have, constantly. I kept searching for answers to questions about why. Why did my brother have to die? Why didn't he call me? His death left me so broken that there were times where I stood frozen, staring into random pill bottles, thinking that would be easier than to have to feel the pain and the guilt and the blame. But I knew that that wasn't the answer. So somehow I had to move forward, and I had to have faith, and I had to hope. So I prayed. And I prayed and I prayed that God would take away the pain, that He would take these questions that I had no answers to, and that He would give me strength to keep going. And I vowed that I would use his death one day for prevention, somehow, somewhere. So I stand before you on Saturday night, broken, vulnerable, and I want to beg you to watch out for one another. If you see someone that's hurting or someone that needs help, reach out to them. Because at any point in time, it could be you. We all suffer. Be kind, be humble. There is help out there, and it works. And I want to beg you that if you are ever in that deep, dark place, like I was, that you ask for help. That you be strong and find the help. And keep asking. Because I know someone somewhere out there loves you just as much, if not more, than I love my brother. Because at the beginning of this, you all raised your hands, didn't you? Thank you.